Welcome to Daily Dreamer, the podcast that provides practical tips and insights to help you reach your biggest dreams. Tune in for daily doses of motivation, inspiration, and actionable advice to turn your aspirations into reality. Whether you're looking to find clarity, boost your confidence, or stay on track with your goals, Daily Dreamer is here to guide you every step of the way.
All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're going to be taking a deep dive into the mind of David Goggins.
David Goggins.
Yeah.
Ultramarathon runner, retired Navy SEAL.
Right.
A guy who just embodies this kind of like...
Inner strength.
Yeah, inner strength, yeah.
We're using his conversation with Andrew Huberman on the Huberman Lab podcast as our guide.
Goggins is such a fascinating figure because he really wasn't always this, superhuman force of will.
Like when you think about it.
Early 20s.
Yeah.
He was over 300 pounds.
Hated his job, yeah.
Hated his job, came from a really, really, really tough background.
Yeah, terrible childhood.
And he basically rebuilt himself from scratch.
I think rebuilt is an understatement.
Yeah.
Because Goggins has this core belief that friction is growth.
Mm-hmm.
Like he doesn't just handle challenges, he seeks them out.
Totally.
He wakes up in the morning and immediately starts looking for ways to push himself.
Yeah, ice baths.
Insane workout routines.
Like before most people have even hit snooze in their alarm.
It's incredible.
And I think what's so interesting about this, most of us, we spend our lives trying to avoid discomfort.
Right.
Goggins is intentionally creating it.
Totally.
Almost like he knows that's the only way to uncover what he's truly capable of.
Yeah.
And he's very open about, his past, his struggles.
Yeah. And this idea that you have to kind of
lean into it.
You have to lean into the hard things in order to grow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what's also interesting is that Goggins, he's talked about how he wasn't a natural learner. He's described himself as being at the bottom of the barrel.
Academically,
yeah.
Yeah.
But then he developed this intense, almost crazy, effective study method.
Yeah. He writes everything down multiple times.
Oh, wow.
He visualizes the pages.
Oh, interesting.
In his mind. And he treats studying like it's this
a mission.
Laser-focused mission.
Yeah.
What I think is also really remarkable is that he's a multimillionaire. He's very successful, but he's still pushing himself to learn new things.
Always learning.
So he's studying medicine.
Really?
And becoming a paramedic.
Wow.
So it's not just this mindset thing.
Yeah.
He's actually applying it to concrete skills and knowledge.
Yeah, he seems allergic to complacency.
Yeah.
So then the question becomes what's the fuel for all this? What is driving this guy?
Yeah, Goggins talks about the stick as being his main motivator.
The stick?
Yeah, so it's not rewards or external validation.
Right.
He's running from something.
Interesting.
So he's haunted by his past, by the pain and the struggles of his upbringing. And it's almost like he's constantly pushing himself to never return to that state.
Right. So it's this kind of negative motivation almost.
Yeah. It's almost like this fear of regressing back into...
going backwards.
Yeah, exactly.
It makes you kind of wonder, for all of us listening, what are your own sticks?
Yeah. What are you running from?
What are you running from?
That might be holding you back.
That's a great question.
And I think this idea of the stick also ties into his view on willpower.
Yeah, because he doesn't believe willpower is just this thing you have or you don't.
It's not a fixed trait.
It's a muscle. You got to train it.
You got to train it.
Yeah.
So he commits to these intense
physical and mental
challenges, even when he doesn't need to.
Yeah, he doesn't have to prove anything to anybody.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But he knows that to maintain that mental toughness,
he has to constantly
push himself.
Right.
It's that consistency.
So it really does challenge that idea that it's just this fixed thing.
You can develop it with effort.
You can develop it.
With deliberate effort.
And then something else he talks about that I think is really interesting is this idea of mastering that internal dialogue.
Oh, yeah.
Not in a fluffy affirmations way, but
real raw,
call yourself out.
Yeah. He talks about confronting his own negativity and developing this winning voice that he calls it. And he talks about how he actually has multiple voices.
Like a committee in his head.
Yeah, like a whole committee.
Wow.
And this is where I think Huberman's neuroscience insights become really interesting, because he explains that there's this area of the brain called the anterior mid-cingulate cortex.
Oh, boy.
Which is associated with willpower.
Okay.
And that actually grows when we do hard things we don't want to do.
It's like literally...
It's like you're working out.
You're working out your brain.
You're working out that part of your brain by doing the things
that you don't want to do.
That you don't want to do.
Wow.
So when Goggins is embracing friction, he's intentionally strengthening that part of his brain.
That's fascinating.
It's amazing, yeah.
Okay, so we've got this guy pushing himself to the limit, physically, mentally, but how does that play out in his relationships?
Right.
Let's just say Goggins has a unique approach.
Yeah, he's very open about.
He's very open, yeah.
About how his,
relentless
pursuit of self-improvement impacts his personal life.
Yeah, and he's made it very clear that his personal growth is non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Even if it means making sacrifices in other areas.
Yeah.
And so he prioritizes providing for his family.
Right.
So they can, and I quote, leave him the fuck alone to do his work.
Might sound harsh.
Yeah, it does sound a little harsh.
But I think if we connect this to the bigger picture, he's setting very clear boundaries.
Right.
Goggins is making it clear that his personal growth is non-negotiable.
It's not up for debate.
It's not up for debate.
Yeah.
And it's a controversial stand.
I'm very controversial.
But it also just highlights how dedicated he is.
To his own development.
Yeah, to his own development.
Yeah.
To really, like walking the walk.
Living his truth.
Yeah.
And Goggins, he doesn't sugarcoat his message either.
Yeah.
He believes most people are settling for a fraction of their potential.
Yeah. Because they're avoiding confronting their own dungeon.
Their own dungeons.
Which is what he calls them.
Yeah, these dark, uncomfortable places within ourselves.
That we often try to ignore.
Right.
He calls out laziness, lack of self-awareness, and the tendency to seek shortcuts.
Basically, he's saying, stop avoiding the hard work.
Yeah, face your weaknesses.
Embrace the discomfort.
Push yourself beyond your perceived limits.
That's where the real growth happens.
That's where the magic is.
Yeah, strong words from David Goggins.
Strong words, and he lives by them.
He does, yeah.
And I think that's what's so compelling about him. He doesn't just talk about this stuff.
He walks the walk.
He walks the walk.
He embodies it.
Yeah, he's constantly pushing himself beyond what most people would consider possible.
Right.
And he's challenging us to do the same.
Yeah, he's basically saying, what's your excuse if I can do this?
What's stopping you?
What's stopping you? Yeah.
Exactly.
Interesting stuff.
It is.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground already, but we're just getting started.
Yeah, there's so much more to uncover.
Buckle up. We're going deeper into the mind of David Goggins after the break.
He's almost like saying, stop waiting for someone to give you the roadmap.
Yeah.
Like you have to chart your own course.
Totally. And it's not about being perfect either. He talks about learning to fail properly, knowing that setbacks are inevitable.
Yeah, you're going to mess up.
On the path to any ambitious goal.
You're going to make mistakes, yeah.
But it's about how do you use those failures to propel you forward?
Exactly. He doesn't shy away from it.
He doesn't hide from it.
He leans into it, extracts the lessons.
And keeps moving.
Keeps going.
Yeah, and this is interesting too because early on, when he was still struggling to believe in his own potential, he created this false reality for himself. Which is kind of a fascinating concept.
It is. It's like he was mentally rehearsing his success.
Yeah.
Before he even achieved it.
Right.
It reminds me of visualization techniques.
Oh, yeah.
That athletes use where they imagine themselves performing at their peak.
At their peak, yeah.
Goggins was essentially training his mind to believe in those seemingly impossible goals.
So he was setting himself up for success?
He was setting himself up.
In a way, even though he hadn't achieved it yet.
By believing it was possible.
Yeah, that's so fascinating.
Yeah.
And what I also find interesting is he says the journey never gets easier.
Yeah.
Even after all he's accomplished.
Right, he still wakes up every day. Facing that same inner resistance.
Yeah, the urge to just
stay comfortable.
Stay comfortable, yeah.
But he's developed that mental toughness to overcome it.
Right.
Time and time again.
Over and over again.
And he really emphasizes that willpower is a perishable skill if he stops pushing himself.
If he
gives in to that desire for comfort and ease, he knows he's going to lose that edge.
It's like a constant
training regimen.
For the mind.
For the mind, yeah.
So we've talked about the importance of self-awareness and confronting those dungeons.
Right.
But how do we actually start putting this into practice?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And Goggins doesn't give us a step-by-step guide.
Right. He's not going to...
And I think that's deliberate.
It's deliberate, yeah.
He really emphasizes that the journey is unique to each individual.
Yeah.
What works for him might not work for someone else.
Right.
But he does give us clues.
He does give us some clues.
Yeah. He starts with radical self-honesty.
Okay.
So that means like really looking at yourself flaws and all without judgment.
So really like being honest with yourself.
Being brutally honest.
About everything.
About your strengths, your weaknesses,
your
fears.
Your aspirations.
The aspirations, everything. And then it's about identifying your list, as he calls it.
The list.
Yeah, the things that truly light you up.
Okay.
The challenges that will push you to evolve.
But that can be a scary process.
It can be terrifying.
Because it means like stepping outside of that
comfortable little bubble.
Comfortable bubble, yeah.
That we build around ourselves.
Yeah.
And daring to embrace the unknown.
And what's out there.
What's out there.
Yeah.
Goggins is basically saying, don't let fear paralyze you. See failure as a stepping stone, not a roadblock. Embrace the discomfort, learn the lessons, and keep moving forward.
Keep going.
Keep going.
And this all comes back to that, like...
Internal work.
Yeah. And it's not about, like, seeking validation...
From other people.
From others, yeah.
It's not about impressing anyone.
Right.
It's about cultivating that deep sense of self-worth.
That comes from...
From within.
Within, yeah.
And that kind of confidence can't be taken away from you.
No matter
what external circumstances you face.
He even talks about celebrating your failures.
Yeah, or at least seeing them as...
learning opportunities.
Yeah, valuable learning opportunities.
So it's like instead of getting down on yourself when you fail...
You're like, okay, what can I learn from this?
What can I learn?
How can I grow from this?
How can I do better next time?
Exactly.
Interesting.
He believes that fear of failure keeps most people from even trying.
Oh, for sure.
So it's like they're so afraid to fail.
They never even start.
That they never even get started.
Yeah, yeah.
So he's encouraging us to like shift our perspective on failure.
To see it as part of the process.
Yeah, it's not the end of the road.
Yeah, it's part of the journey.
It's part of the journey.
He also talks about the power of self-belief.
Oh, absolutely.
Like trusting your instincts.
Yeah.
Having the courage to pursue your dreams even when others doubt you.
Yeah, because you're going to face doubters.
You are.
You're going to face people who tell you you can't do it.
Oh, for sure.
But it's about trusting that inner voice.
That inner voice.
And having the courage to keep going.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that we all have the potential for greatness within us.
We do.
But it takes courage to unleash it.
That's a great way of putting it. It takes courage.
It does.
Now, this is interesting because he also talks about the importance of finding your tribe.
Your tribe, yeah.
The people who support you, challenge you, inspire you to be your best.
Yeah. He's not saying isolate yourself.
Right.
But be mindful of who you surround yourself with.
Who you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
And then another thing he talks about that I think is really important is forgiving yourself.
Forgiving yourself, yeah.
For past mistakes.
Holding on to guilt and shame can be incredibly heavy.
It can weigh you down.
It can really weigh you down, yeah.
And it's not productive.
It's not serving you.
It's not serving you at all.
So it's about letting go of that.
It's about letting go.
Yeah.
He's like, let go of the past. It's done.
Focus your energy on what you can control, the present moment.
The present moment. Yeah, that's such a good point because we can get so caught up in...
dwelling on the past.
Yeah, or worrying about the future.
Yeah.
But the only thing we can actually control is...
right now.
Right now, this moment.
This moment, yeah.
And I think that's ultimately what Goggins' message boils down to.
Right.
Like living a more present,
authentic,
and fulfilling life.
Okay.
Embrace the challenges.
Embrace the challenges.
Learn from every experience.
Yeah.
And strive to become the best version of yourself.
The best version of yourself.
Yeah. And I think it's important to remember he's not claiming to have all the answers.
He's not
or offering any magic shortcuts.
Yeah.
He's simply sharing his own experiences and insights.
Yeah.
Hoping to inspire others to embark on their own.
Journey of self-discovery.
Journey of self-discovery, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what's so powerful about it.
Because it's not about like, here's the 10 steps to success.
Right.
It's more about like, here's what worked for me.
This is my story.
This is my story.
Take from it what you will.
Yeah, what resonates with you.
Yeah.
And remember, this journey isn't about seeking out suffering.
No.
It's about understanding that real growth often happens.
When we step outside of our comfort zones.
When we embrace the friction.
When we embrace the friction, yeah.
It's like he's saying, don't be afraid to get your hands dirty.
Yeah.
Dive into the messy parts of yourself.
The real treasures are often hidden beneath the surface.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Wow, we've really gone deep into David Goggins' world here.
We have.
This incredible transformation, unique philosophy.
Yeah, his outlook on life.
And this powerful message of self-mastery.
Yeah.
What's resonating with you the most?
Well, I think one of the things that really sticks out to me is Goggins' emphasis on radical self-responsibility.
Right. He doesn't wait for things to happen. He makes them happen.
Exactly. It all starts with taking ownership of your life, your choices, your growth.
Yeah, it's that whole, stop complaining about your circumstances.
You have the power to change them.
You have the power.
And that power comes from, like we were talking about earlier, confronting those dungeons.
Yeah, the uncomfortable truths.
Uncomfortable truths, yeah.
That we often try to avoid.
That we try to sweep under the rug.
Right. And he doesn't sugarcoat it.
No.
He acknowledges that it can be
painful.
Even ugly.
Yeah.
To face those inner demons.
But he argues that it's the only way to real lasting transformation.
Yeah.
You can't just slap a Band-Aid on it.
Right.
You have to really go deep and address the root of the issue.
And then there's that idea of the stick.
Right.
He's not motivated by rewards or accolades.
It's not about the external validation for him.
He's driven by what he doesn't want to experience.
Exactly. He's running from something.
Yeah. He's using his past, his struggles as fuel.
As fuel.
Yeah.
To keep pushing forward.
It's almost like he's constantly running from that old version of himself.
Right.
The one who was lost, unhappy, stuck.
And he's made it clear he will never go back there.
He's not going back.
Yeah. And it's so powerful. And it ties into this belief.
Yeah.
That willpower is a perishable skill.
You got to train it.
You got to constantly train it. It's not just
it's not a one and done.
Yeah, you don't just have it.
You can't just coast.
You got to work at it.
Day after day.
Day after day.
It's like going to the gym for your mind.
And he's not waiting for someone to hand him a shortcut.
No, he's out there.
He's embracing
the friction.
The friction, the discomfort.
The discomfort, yeah.
He knows that's where the growth happens.
That's where the magic is.
And even that idea of the false reality he created early on.
Right, visualizing himself achieving those seemingly impossible goals.
Yeah, it's like he willed himself.
He willed himself into becoming the person he is today.
It's amazing. It's a real testament to the power of belief.
Yeah.
Of having a vision for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then relentlessly pursuing it.
Even when others doubt you.
Even when people tell you you're crazy.
Yeah, because you are gonna face doubters.
Oh, absolutely.
When you're trying to do something.
Especially when you're trying to do something extraordinary.
Out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
But it's about trusting that inner voice.
And having the courage to keep going.
That's powerful stuff.
It is, yeah.
Now, Goggins also really stresses the importance of finding your own path.
Your own list.
Your list. Yeah.
What are those things that really light you up?
Yeah, and it's not about comparing yourself.
To other people.
To others.
No two journeys are the same.
Right, or trying to fit into some predefined mold.
You got to carve your own path.
You got to find what works for you.
Exactly, and that's where the real growth happens.
And he's a huge advocate for authenticity.
Wow, absolutely.
Embracing your individuality.
Yeah.
Living a life that's true to your own values.
Your values, your aspirations.
And aspirations, yeah.
You know?
And, his approach may seem extreme.
It's definitely not for everyone.
Yeah, but his honesty and his vulnerability.
They're inspiring.
Were so inspiring.
He's not afraid to share his struggles, his doubts.
His fears.
His fears, yeah.
It makes him human.
He's human just like the rest of us.
Yeah.
But he's chosen to use those experiences as fuel for growth.
Yeah, he's not hiding from them.
He's leaning into them.
He's like, look, life is tough.
It's going to be tough.
There will be setbacks, failures, moments of despair.
But you have a choice.
You have the power to choose how you respond.
You can let those experiences break you.
Or you can use them to become stronger.
More resilient.
More determined.
It's your choice.
So as we wrap up this deep dive
into the world of David Goggins,
we're left with a lot to think about.
We are.
This message is challenging, raw, and incredibly empowering.
It is.
It's a reminder that we all have those dungeons to confront, those inner battles to fight.
Those demons to wrestle with.
But it's in those struggles, in that friction,
that we discover our true potential.
And if you're intrigued by Goggins' philosophy,
I highly recommend checking out his books.
Can't Hurt Me.
Can't Hurt Me. And Never Finished.
Yeah, they offer a deeper dive into his principles.
And provide some practical strategies for applying them to your own life.
So as you go out into the world today, ask yourself,
what's one small step you can take
To embrace a little friction.
To step outside your comfort zone.
And to move a little closer to that best version of yourself.
You might be surprised by what you discover.
That's a great point.
Until next time, keep diving deep.
Keep challenging yourself.
Keep striving for that extraordinary life.
That's waiting for you.